All right, Stu, podcast 3, periodization.
All
You
right.
can tell
Favorite
it is
topic.
for the first time, we're doing one of these in the broad daylight here in Arizona. That's why you're seeing a little bit of sunlight here. New look. I see actually you don't have black on anymore.
Oh no. Yeah, we're good. Another day. Let's hit it.
Periodization. So when I was putting the notes together for this one, Stu, periodization comes out as not a word that Word recognizes. It comes when you type it into a Word document, it comes out with a red underline on it that says it's not a word. Then when you search it on Google, though, there's all kinds of activity around it, including your articles and so forth. So it seems to be a well-recognized term in some areas, but not in others. Spend a second on, I actually call it the 27-year-old fail, because you developed this when I think you were 27 years old, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken, because your body had given out on you from a certain type of training, which we'll go into now. So spend a minute, and you've spent a lot of time on this subject, perfecting it. I mean, I remember when you wrote the first book on this back, it was 20 years ago. I think it was called Max Fitness. And you started working that through this whole issue of periodization. So spend a second, tell us what it is, why you developed it, how to use it.
Okay. So what I had to do to myself, right? And it came, I realized that this has been my 20th year of using this formula for the tactical athlete, when one of my first students emailed me and said, "Hey, Stu, it's been 20 years since I started my first day of buds." I'm like, whoa,
That is
wow,
unbelievable.
that sucks. Makes me feel really old. No, but I started this when I was 27. And if you take a look at my life until that moment, right, it was pretty, average athlete kid, starting at 8 years old, right? And, playing baseball, playing football, playing active in the yard, and, playing with buddies, riding bicycles, swimming, doing all those type of things that you do when you're a kid. And then, athletics came into the play in high school, and I played baseball and football and wrestled, and we actually had a powerlifting team, and then, ran track, so, all of these different exercise, sports throughout that year. And then I went into Navy, tried to play football at the Naval Academy, and, wound up playing rugby. So that brought a whole different level of, fitness and athleticism to, my previous 10 years. Right. And then I transitioned from being a powerlifting, football, rugby player to a Bud student, right? And went through Buds, became a SEAL, went to the SEAL teams, continued to do strenuous activities, and went on. By 27, was completely broken, right?
Yeah.
And when I say broken, burned out, um, shoulder injury, lower back injury, ankle surgery, knee injuries, nothing serious. I didn't need surgeries on those other joints, but everything hurt. Everything was just banged up, right? And that's just from 8 years old to 27, living life hard, right? And I didn't even realize I was doing periodization, back in high school, and periodization, all it really is it's preseason training that you would do before a sport. It's in-season training that you would do during your sport, and it's postseason training that you do after your sport, or you're getting ready for another sport, right? So we've all gone through periodized training programs. You just didn't know it, and maybe we didn't even call it that back then. In fact, I'm sure we didn't. We just called it, preseason football, right, or whatever. So I realized that at that 27, I needed to do something that helped rebuild myself. And so what I actually did is I just went back to the weight room, and, where I cut my teeth on fitness, back when I was, 13 years old, started lifting weights, and I just started lifting weights again. And, I went from very light weights, isolation exercises, even, almost like a bodybuilder. And that helped tremendously, of just kind of help rebuild those joints that were banged up. Right. And so my shoulder didn't hurt anymore. My lower back didn't hurt anymore. My knees didn't hurt anymore. I'd still bang my ankle up so bad that I needed surgery, but that healed up too in, a couple of years, and I was back to 100%. And that's when I wrote my first periodization book, Maximum Fitness, which is actually a 52-week program that takes you through what I have now been doing for 20 years.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
And that 20-year program is simply, you have spring training, summer training, fall training, and winter training. So, in fact, first, I never even called it periodization when I first started. I called it my solstice running program.
Yeah, right.
Right. And if you Google solstice running program, it's the only article probably written about running in the solstice. Right.
Yeah, right.
I wrote years ago, and it basically works like this. When the day is shorter, your runs are shorter, right? When the days are longer, your runs are longer, right? And during the transitions, you can focus on different things. You can focus on speed and agility during the transition. So basically, my running plan kind of goes like this. It's a nice little bell curve, right? It starts off in January pretty light, progressive, and then comes back down, peaks in the summer, and then comes back down in the winter. So that is a progressive type of training that, it logically progresses you through the running cycle. Because what happens to everybody when they want to start running again, if they haven't been running in a while, they go back to when the last time they ran, could be 5-10 years ago, when they were running 4 or 5 miles a day. They go back and run 5 miles, and then they wonder why they're hurt.
Yeah, you mentioned something really interesting to me at one point, where you said to me, it's important not to go back to workouts that you did well and start using those to rebuild yourself. Because you said to me, look, you've got an idea in mind about how you did those workouts, and you'll hurt yourself trying to go there, and you'll get discouraged. And so you said, don't do it that way. Make sure that you bring yourself back to where you need to be now to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be ashamed to treat yourself like a beginner, right? If you haven't done anything in a very long time, treat yourself like a beginner, right? And that means starting a beginner running program, a beginner lifting program, beginner at calisthenics. One of the favorite exercises I do, and if you think about it, it's a pyramid, right? And you only do what you're able to do, right? So when you do a pyramid of 1 to 10 back down to 1 of pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups or whatever you want to throw in there, you might fail at 5. Hey, that's great. Then you go back down, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Well, the next week you do it, you might fail at 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so you're progressing still logically through. And if you think about the pyramid, it's a perfect periodized workout, because what it has in it is it has a built-in warm-up, max out, and cool down all rolled into one. So that's why I love the pyramid. And when we talk about pyramid training, with PT progressions, it's perfect, right? In fact, you can Google it, Stu Smith, PT pyramid, PT. I think I have a 5-series article called the PT progression, right? 5-phase series of PT progression, where we do pyramids, supersets, max rep sets. Then we start getting creative with, throwing running in there. And then we throw in thinking games, where you actually have to think while you're tired. And so there's all types of things you can do with it. And the more creative you get, the more fun these workouts are. And PT Pyramid is a great way to start.
Stu, so let's talk about somebody starting this. I know if my memory serves, when you first started doing the solstice, it was a definition of when you started your run. You started your run at daybreak.
Yes.
And then you went until, I forgot what it was, 8 in the morning or whatever it was. And as you said, that naturally created a progression of increasing run times from the shortest day of the year to the longest day of the year. And so let's say somebody is right now deciding they want to put periodization into their training. How would you suggest they think about this and get started?
Well, first, Google periodization and find out exactly what it is, because really all periodization is a fitness budget, right? If you think about it, right, that you spread throughout the year, right? And it is just in everything progressive. It gets a little more and more and more, and then it comes down, gets a little less and less. So just depends on how you create what's called microcycles, macrocycles, and mesocycles, right? There's just another term used in the periodization physiology and training world for, quarterly, weekly, monthly type cycles. So it depends on what your goals are. So I would say if you're trying to run, start off with a beginner running program, which there are many, and you may want to start your first run with as simple as a mile a day, right? Or a mile every other day, right? And you may have to even walk run that first mile, right? It just depends on your weight. If you got a lot of weight to lose, I don't recommend starting running immediately. Start doing non-impact cardio first. Just try to lose some of that weight, before you subject your knees and feet and hips to the pounding of running, especially if you're 50 to 80 pounds overweight, right? A lot of people try to go running at that, and then they wonder why they're hurting, a week later.
Stu, one of the purpose of the periodization is to keep you from injuring yourself or to recover after you have, or to help you get back when you've not worked out appropriately for a period of time. And one of those aspects is it's really smart training, right? I mean, that's basically what it is. It's smart training. And one of the aspects that I know you've talked about, at least with me, is it's great to be able to have an intense training program and not have anything hurt.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you can go through a day without pain, that makes you want to work out the next day. Right. And so, a lot of these workouts are designed, like I said, this is a tactical fitness periodization program that I've been doing for 20 years. And it enables you to hit all the elements of fitness, right? Spread throughout the year. And it's not that you completely negate endurance during the winter while you are lifting weights, right? But you've decreased all your running. You just change that endurance to a non-impact version, like swimming or biking or elliptical or rowing. So your joints are not feeling that impact of running year round, especially high volumes, because that's where I hurt myself. Is instead of a running plan being a nice progressive, bell curve, mine was a flat line up at the top. It was just every day was 5-6 miles of running year after year after year after year. And, next thing I know, running 30-40 miles a week just crushed me, right? And it just hurt, right? So you gotta progress, right? And so I actually have a chart. You want me to show the chart?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let me share this chart with you. This is a PowerPoint, because I give a lot of PowerPoint presentations to military, law enforcement, firefighters, tactical fitness conferences done by the National Strength and Conditioning Association. This is just one of the charts that we do. So with this new technology of Zoom, let's share a screen, right? And let's see if you guys can see this. All right, so how's that look?
It's just came up, Stu.
All right, so anyway, this might look like just a bunch of lines to you, but here's what this is. All right, so I start off here in January, right? This is January and 0, right? New Year's.
Yeah.
And if you look up the line, this is just like intensity level, I would guess, maybe some time thrown in there. And this red curve here, this bell curve, is what we've been talking about most of the day, is this running progression. So this is my my bell curve of running done throughout the year. So as you can see, in the winter months, we are just slowly starting to progress with running, right? Till we peak in the summer, and then we start coming back down in the winter, right?
Yep.
It doesn't necessarily look perfectly like this. Sometimes it's skewed a little bit over to the right where we actually maintain that peak a little longer, especially if everybody's feeling pretty good, and maybe go till September and then start coming down. But it just depends. You know, it depends on your goals, how you want to do that. Now, if you notice, the blue line here is my non-impact cardio option. So this, it's blue for swimming because that's my number one choice of swimming, but it can also be biking, elliptical, rowing. During the peak of the summer, when I'm running the most, I don't really need to be doing a lot of non-impact stuff because, you know, we're good with the cardio. But as you see, when we're not running, we're peaking on swimming, you know, longer distances, faster 500 times. You know, instead of running so much, we'll mix in some biking too, right? It's not that we go zero with running, but let's say our miles per week here might be between 5 and 10, and our miles per week here might be between 30 and 40.
Got it. Right?
So it's a steady progression. So you're never really not running, you're just not running as much. Now this black line, this is the fun one, and this is what saved me, like I said years ago, is this little linear progression of powerlifting or weight training, right? You can do bodybuilding, you can do powerlifting. I prefer powerlifting. However, I was so banged up that I just did isolation bodybuilding exercises for a cycle, and that helped a lot. You know, so I'm never going to knock bodybuilders and bodybuilding training, but, you know, it's a little bit different than powerlifting, and I love both. So whatever floats your boat, get you in the weight room, go do it. It will help you build strength. It'll help you build power. You know, it help rebuild some of those joints, because one of the things that you want to do during a powerlifting cycle is reduce the repetitions of all of this impact. And by the way, this is also our calisthenics line too. So when we're peaking at calisthenics, we're also peaking at running. So high rep calisthenics, running, you know, pull up, push up, sit ups, you know, all these exercises that you would do with your body weight are also peaked at that point. So coming down here, it's kind of twofold. You're resting your body for, you know, high rep calisthenics, rebuilding the joints with weight training, but you're also resting your knees and all your, you know, joints for impact issues that come with running by running a lot less, but you're swimming a lot more. Right?
Yep.
Any questions on this, Tom?
No, that's really interesting, Stu. So to summarize that one, you are moving from low volume in the winter with low impact to high volume with high impact in the summer.
Yes.
And that helps you then rest your body.
Yeah.
And
because the problem is I was high impact, high volume year round for many, many years, right? And the body can only handle, I mean, I was able to handle it for almost a decade before starting to really see the results of living hard, right? And this is also my 20s too, you know, so, you know, we were working hard and playing hard, you know, during this time as well. So I probably wasn't eating as well, drinking too much beer, you know, hanging out with the guy, staying on, not sleeping enough. So, you know, things, it all adds up, you know, and when you're, like I said, we talked in previous podcasts about the 3 phases of tactical fitness. You know, you have 3 phases of tactical fitness being 2 through and maintenance, right? This is a great maintenance program, but you can also use it to, you know, help yourself work out some of those weaknesses that you have on getting to and through the training as well.
Yes. So, Stu, where would someone turn now if they want to start implementing this in their training? Where would you send them?
First, I would go on the internet and look at periodization style programs. There's several out there. You're like, this is a way to train. My way is a way to train. I'm not saying by any stretch of imagination that it is the way to train, right? There are many ways to set up periodization programs depending on your goals. So, like I said, I'm not trying to tell everybody this is the only way to train. This is one of a great ways to train that I've been doing for 20 years, and any one of my students have been doing for 20 years or less. And it has seen great results, whether they were trying to get to the training and through the training, or they were maintaining their bodies to do their job with some longevity, right? However, I'm a writer, so I write a lot of articles on this. So if you Google periodization and Stu Smith, you'll probably find a dozen articles on, transitions from the spring to the fall to the winter, because you can do some unique things with that. This is not just calisthenics and weights. You can add in kettlebells and TRXs and, multiple forms of cardio. It could be cross-country skiing, whatever, non-impact cardio you want to add into here, you can. I've written several books on the topic. My latest book is Tactical Strength, which is actually my strength training cycle that I use myself, as many of my students that want to do it, and there are many. Also have another one that is a Navy SEAL weight training book. A lot of people confuse some of my previous writing, my first book ever, the Navy SEAL Fitness, which is the classic, right? Because that's all calisthenics and running. So people think that I don't recommend weight training. Well, I do recommend weight training. That's just a 12-week cycle of calisthenics and running, whereas, the Navy SEAL weight training is kind of like the next step. Now you got to go to, more of the weight training stuff and focus on preparing for being under a log and under a boat and fireman carries and, those type of things. Now, one of my first heard the word tactical fitness, I was like, this is a great term. I've been doing this for 10 years, right? Military, law enforcement, firefighter fitness. And I said, you know what? I'm writing a book on tactical fitness, right? And that's what I did. And this is another periodization program that focuses on several elements of tactical fitness and actually tests all of them, whether it's running, swimming, rucking, weighted pull-ups, deadlifts, and bench presses, and agility runs, and shuttle runs, all those type of things. So it hits everything from speed and agility to strength and power, endurance, and like I said, you have to be good at all of those if you're a tactical athlete, right? And then the one that you mentioned very first was my first 52-week program called Maximum Fitness, which was my attempt of breaking down a year-long workout into 4 quarters, where the first quarter is calisthenics only, right? And you're kind of transitioning, out of quarter 4, which is a powerlifting or weightlifting program. So starts off calisthenics only, build up your running. The second phase is calisthenics only and increase of running. Phase 3 is kind of a combination between the two, where you mix in weights and calisthenics. So it's a neat transition. And you can do this in the spring and the fall, transitioning from calisthenics to weights or transitioning from weights to calisthenics, where, there's a section of the workouts that half the workout is weights, half the workout's calisthenics. And then you're building up your cardio at the same time. And then the final one is all weightlifting.
Yeah.
And very low cardio activity other than non-impact cardio.
Stu, we'll focus on this in another podcast, is the whole issue of making sure that you train so you don't hurt yourself beyond periodization, meaning you have a couple of great programs, short programs, the lightweight shoulder, the also the lower back plan. Those two have sustained for a long time. I've been doing lightweight shoulder. You had me doing it, I don't know, probably 10 years ago? And it's still...
I created it about 19 years ago. So
did you really?
Yeah.
That thing has just been great. And then, as you know, I hurt my shoulder just recently, and rolling it with the foam roller against a wall. It fixed it almost immediately. So we'll go through those techniques because that's a really important thing to be able to do. One thing that really hurts all of us is training and injuring yourself while you're training that then sets you back enormously in your training.
Yeah, I mean, there's in these workouts, you're still pushing really hard. And if you follow a book to the letter, that's something that is not personally made for you, right? You could easily hurt yourself by doing too much, right?
Yeah.
You could also, be super in shape and it not be enough for you. So you have to add more. So, no book is going to be a personalized program. So I charge everybody to, if you're going to get a program that's not specifically made for you, by a trainer or somebody who's, doing it professionally, and you get a book, just realize that is not a personalized program for you. And you might need to alter some of those exercises and times and distances, to fit your progression. Right. And, those workouts that you mentioned, the lower back plan is fantastic because there's a lot of stretching in it. There's a lot of balancing out the back side of your body from the front side of your body, because what do most of us want to look good? We want to have abs and you want to have a chest. Well, we do all this stuff out in front of us, but we neglect our upper back and our lower back. And that's what that focuses on. Kind of helps us balance out, our spine from the front side and from the back side, right? So you have muscle groups that are in balance and you don't have one too strong and the other one weaker, which can obviously lead to injuries, especially if you're doing some, tactical movement, right? And that's where a lot of us get injured, or just yard work. I see so many people do, in the gym, do all the machines, right? And then they go spend 20 minutes on the cardio, and then they wonder why they got hurt putting the groceries from the cart into the car because they're twisting and doing this.
And
right?
lifting at the same time, yep.
You know what I mean? Because they're not doing any of those movements, and, machines are taking up, some of the natural movements that we have. So I'm not knocking machines. I think, they probably saved me when I was broken because I needed that isolation.
Yeah.
Right. However, they're great for rebuilding joints and recovery. However, you need to have workouts that are actually kind of help you live your life,
Yeah.
Climbing stairs, carrying weight, one-handed, two-handed out in front of you. Those are types of movements that we call farmer walks, that, are ideal. Just sitting down and standing up, is the most functional exercise that you can do, and as we age, as you have seen, and many of us have seen, older relatives or friends that, have a hard time standing up after sitting down for a while. Right. So that's one of those exercises that you have to get good at and stay good at. Right. And flexibility and mobility allows you to do that without a lot of pain.
So we're going to come back to all those subjects, Stu, but we've run out of time, buddy. As
Right.
usual, it was fun. How do we get people involved in these subjects?
Well, periodization is an education in itself. It's hard to fully appreciate a periodized training program in a 20 or 30 minute PowerPoint or even an article. Read several articles, read some studies that are out there on the effects of periodization. Some people love it, some people hate it, and they'd rather have a random workout, every day throughout the year, but if that random workout throughout the year makes sense in an annual program, when you look at your year of training and you're getting towards your goals, you're basically doing a periodized program. It's just a little bit different. You have to have a fitness budget, and periodization is really all about creating a fitness budget that you understand, what you're spending every day, right? When you go out there, and it makes sense towards your current fitness level and your goals in the future.
All right, buddy. That's
all right.
it for today.
Hey, man. Tom, thanks for talking periodization. I think it was really needed. It's a good podcast to do. And if you're looking for more answers on periodization, just Google periodization Stu Smith. I've written several articles on it, several books on it, as we just discussed. And if you have questions, just email me, stu@stusmith.com. In fact, if you have any topics that you'd like to see us talk about on these podcasts, just let me know. I'm all ears.
All right, buddy.
All
That's
right.
it for today.
Thanks, Tom.
Later.
We'll see you at number 5.